Hey friends, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the Resident Evil Iceberg. So for those of you who have been around YouTube for a while, you probably know what an iceberg is, but just in case you need a refresher or you don't know, essentially what an iceberg is the top tiers are more common knowledge, known by just basic, normal fans of the series. But as you go as you go deeper in, the knowledge gets more niche and more unknown about the games, the developers, the fandom. So for this one, it's the Resident Evil Iceberg, created by Shan Gary over on DeviantArt. And this specific iceberg is 15 tiers, so we're going to get into some pretty deep knowledge. But just for today's video, we're going to be covering tiers 1 and 2. And I'll have a link down below for the actual image, just so you guys can check it out on your own. But tier 1 is called Raccoon Citizen, and the description for it reads, an ordinary person of the masses. Most of the entries in this tier are known to almost everyone who possesses even a passive interest in Resident Evil or survival horror as a whole. And the first topic is just the mainline series, which just, refers to Resident Evil 1 through 9. And next we got Capcom, which is the series developer who has been, with the series ever since its creation in 1996. And the next topic is the T-virus, or also known as the Tyrant virus, which is a mutated strand of the progenitor virus that started it all. Most infections in the early series are this specific virus and mutations of it. And so the most common result of infection is zombification, but it can also mutate to create things like the Crimson Heads, the Lickers, and the Pale Heads. And other strains of the T-virus can give people enhanced abilities, like with Wesker, and possibly Jill, who might have a slow aging from her infection with the T-virus. So 6 live-action films were made by Paul W.S. Anderson, and starring Mila Jovovich as the main character, Alice. And most were successful at the box office, despite largely being bad fun movies, which largely ignored the series canon and, lore. And another movie, Welcome to Raccoon City, was released in 2021 and was largely a failure due to its butchering of the characters and narratives in RE1 and 2. And it failed to launch the reboot franchise, so another reboot is currently being filmed right now. So the RE engine was first used in 7. It's an entirely new engine developed by Capcom, and since then every game released since has used it, as well as some other Capcom games such as Street Fighter 6, Devil May Cry 5, and a few of the Monster Hunter games. So the Umbrella Corporation is the main pharmaceutical company in the beginning of the series that is largely responsible for the creation of most of the creatures and viruses. It was founded in 1968 by Oswell E. Spencer, James Marcus, and Edward Ashford. It grew several subsidiaries and eventually began making bioweapons. And after the Raccoon City incident in 1998, the US Congress seized all of Umbrella's assets, and the company rapidly declined. Many high-ranking employees would jump ship and go to other places, and after they went bankrupt and the liquidation of their Japanese company happened in 2004, the company basically ceased to exist. Shinji Mikami. So he's largely known as the father of the Resident Evil series. He was originally hired by Capcom to direct a remake of the Sweet Home horror game, which eventually evolved into Biohazard 1, or, Resident Evil. And after RE1, Mikami kind of stepped back to oversee the entire series, and he went on to direct Dino Crisis, which is a very similar game to Resident Evil in many ways. And he oversaw the series until the release of RE4, which after that he proceeded to jump through a few studios until 2010, when he founded his own studio, Tango Gameworks. And in 2014 he released The Evil Within, which is a very similar game to Resident Evil in many ways. It's a horror game. Kind of underrated in my opinion. And currently he has left Tango Gameworks and made a new studio called Camu, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'll put it here on screen. And next we have Resident Sleeper, which is an internet meme born from Twitch streamer Alder Pro, who fell asleep while doing a 72-hour Resident Evil marathon. Raccoon City. So this is the main city where the original trilogy takes place. It's also where the zombie outbreak happened in the series. So the city rapidly grew during the late 1960s, likely due to Umbrella moving in nearby. And in 1969, the RPD was founded, and the city enjoyed an economic boom during the 70s into the 80s. During the 1990 to 1991 recession, Umbrella managed to gain a foothold in the city, in its policies and its mayor. And they oversaw the creation of STARS in 1996. And in 1998, a pack of Cerberus escaped the lab and attacked hikers in the Arglay Mountains nearby. The resulting STARS investigation threatened to weaken Umbrella's hold on the town, and the team was disbanded. William Birkin deliberately allowed the T-virus to be leaked into the city, resulting in the zombie outbreak. After an emergency Congress session, it was destroyed by a thermobaric missile strike. The ruins were locked down by the government, and the city hasn't been seen in the mainline series since, until Requiem, which is currently unreleased. The remakes. So starting in 2002 with the RE1 remake, 2, 3, and 4 have also been remade. While not confirmed, it's almost certain that a bunch of other remakes are in development. Please, Capcom, remake Code Veronica. Marvel vs. Capcom. So Marvel vs. Capcom is a crossover fighting game with Marvel and several Capcom properties. So starting in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Resident Evil characters have appeared in the roster. And they play a more prominent role in 3, which involves Wesker teaming up with several Marvel villains to, gain power. Jill Sandwich. So this is an iconic meme from RE1, which has been referenced later in the series and even in pop culture. The Evil Within. As I mentioned before, this is another survival horror game created by Shinji Mikami, and it shares a few similarities with Resident Evil, namely in its gameplay and its tone. Lance Reddick. So Lance Reddick is a very prolific actor who portrayed multiple versions of Wesker in the ill-fated Netflix series. And unfortunately, he did pass away, I believe it was last year. R.I.P. to the GOAT. He was great. The Merchant. So the Merchant is an iconic character from 4, whose voice lines and appearance have spread throughout pop culture, and he's referenced multiple times in various media. Stars. So the Special Tactics and Rescue Service branch of the RPD, who mainly feature in RE1. Its most prominent members in the series are Jill, Chris, Barry, Rebecca, and Wesker. Master of Unlocking. So this is another iconic reference to RE1, where Barry gives Jill her iconic lockpick and deems her the Master of Unlocking. So this has been referenced multiple times throughout the series and also in other forms of media. The Enigma DRM. So this is a type of DRM that Capcom has since gone back and added to some of the older games, which has caused a bit of controversy because apparently some users report it breaking their games and specifically their mods and stuff like that. Bad voice acting. So this is a reference to the early version of RE1, which is quite notable for its bad voice acting, which has spawned several memes, like I've referenced previously. Moonlight Sonata. So in both versions of RE1, obtaining the sheet music and playing it on the piano will play a version of Moonlight Sonata, which will open a secret door. And this moment is also referenced in the RE5 Lost Nightmares DLC, where if you play as Jill and you go to the piano, she will play the song and it will open a secret door in that mansion.
Complete global saturation.
So this is a iconic line from Wesker in RE5, which has spawned many memes. Actually, in recent memory, it's kind of blown up on TikTok and Instagram. X gonna give it to you. So this is the unofficial theme song for Mr. X in the RE2 remake. These kind of videos blew up when it was released, just showing him, just pounding Leon or Claire while the song plays. Hey y'all, I just wanted to hop in here and correct myself. I originally thought that this was a reference to a meme from Resident Evil 4, but it's actually a reference to a video by YouTuber SpazBo4, which is a video about the Redfield Bloodline meme, which I will explain later, but essentially Chris wants Leon to sleep with Claire, so Leon responds, "No way." I just wanted to hop in here and fix that quick mistake. So Tier 2 is called Hardened Survivor, and the description for it reads, "Any experienced individual who has seen the light at the end of this horde. Most of the entries in this tier are known to many casual RE fans and people first getting into the series." And to start off, we have the Resident Evil Director's Cut. So this is a re-release of the first game in 1997. It contains new content for the game, such as different models, costumes, and enemies, as well as an auto-aim feature not included in the original English version of the game. Another version called the DualShock version was released a year later, and just features support for the DualShock controller. It also included some new music tracks, which some have become infamous due to fans not liking them over the original. Dead by Daylight characters. So in 2021, Dead by Daylight collaborated with Resident Evil to bring over different characters and enemies for the game. So this first update included Jill and Leon, who can be equipped with costumes and make them look like Chris and Claire. And later, Nemesis was also added as a killer. And the next year, Project W came out, which added Wesker as a killer and Ada and Rebecca as survivors. And multiple Resi-themed costumes were added for various characters, which also includes a Sheva costume for Jill, which makes her look like Sheva, as well as a costume for Leon, which makes him look like Carlos. Ella Freya. So Ella Freya is the face model for Ashley in the RE4 remake. And she has since embraced the RE fandom, she's even cosplayed Ashley a few times. The BSAA. So the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance was founded by Jill and Chris following the end of Umbrella. And its main purpose is to fight the use of biological weapons. It has been heavily featured in 5, 6, 7, Revelations, and Village, and as well as the animated movies. But since the ending of 8 leaves off with the BSAA using bioweapons, its current fate is unknown in the series. Unlockable outfits. So in practically every game, you can unlock various different outfits by either completing the game or different objectives throughout the game. And some of these are rather cheeky, such as Chris's sailor outfit in Revelations, both of him and Sheva's alternate outfits in 5, and in both versions of 4, you can unlock a full set of armor for Ashley, which actually prevents her from taking any damage. Lady Dimitrescu. So the vampiric first boss from Village blew up online due to her appearance. Because, of course, the internet has an obsession with tall goth women who can step on them. And despite her small role, Lady D has become kind of a Resident Evil icon. And since then, her voice actor, Maggie Robertson, has appeared in several Resident Evil promo videos, and she's kind of become a face of the series as well. Resident Evil clones. So, several games have borrowed aspects from Resident Evil, in terms of like either gameplay, story, tone, that kind of thing. Examples include Tormented Souls, the Evil Within games like I mentioned before, the first Silent Hill, and most notably Dead Space was heavily inspired by RE4. Mountain Climbing Confusion. So this refers to kind of the weird way they worded the difficulties in the first Resident Evil. So very easy was called like taking a walk. Easy was called like going for a hike. And normal was like climbing a mountain. And so this caused a bit of a confusion for new players just coming in and not really knowing what difficulty that meant. Zapping system. So this is an underrated system from 2 that hasn't really made like a full return in the series yet. So for example, if you don't kill Marvin in the A scenario, in another character's B scenario, he will appear. Or if you take the SMG in one scenario, the other character won't have access to it in theirs. Mercenaries. So this is a game mode that first appeared in 3, and multiple iterations of it have appeared throughout 3, 4, 5, 6, Village, and the RE4 remake. And it even got its own spin-off in the form of Mercenaries 3D on the Nintendo 3DS, Nest. So this is the final area in RE2. It is Umbrella's massive underground laboratory underneath Raccoon City. And it was managed by William Birkin until the outbreak, and it was used for multiple tests and housed many subjects. It was built in 1991 due to the Arklay lab being too small for Umbrella's continued research. And due to sabotage by the Birkins in 1998, several test subjects were released within the facility and attacked and killed most of the staff. And after Leon, Ada, Claire, and Sherry broke in, the facility's self-destruct was activated and it was blown up. Plant 42. So this is a boss from RE1, which was a giant plant infected with the T-virus by Dr. Henry Sarton, and it was located in the dormitory building near the Arklay lab. So its roots eventually grew down into the aqua ring below, which gave it nutrients and caused it to mutate even more. But eventually the STARS members managed to poison the plant's roots and killed the plant for good. The Redfield Bloodline meme. So this is an internet meme largely perpetuated by the YouTuber Detective Masterclass's videos about it. They're mainly meme videos. But it is about an increasingly desperate Chris Redfield's attempt to continue the Redfield bloodline by trying to convince Leon to sleep with Claire, much to Leon's dismay throughout the videos. Sandy Cheeks. So this is largely known at this point, but some players may be unaware that Ashley's voice actor in the original RE4 is the same voice actor who voiced Sandy Cheeks in the SpongeBob cartoon. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Slippy Slides. So Slippy Slides is a YouTuber who specializes in finding out-of-bounds secrets in video games. And they have made several secrets for the Resident Evil games. Some include the fact that Mr. X in the RE2 remake genuinely wanders around the RPD looking for the player, or that in a certain level of RE4, there is just a random JPEG of a dude just off in the distance, barely able to be seen. Their videos are really interesting. I'm going to provide a link for them down below because it's an interesting YouTuber. Blue medallions. So scattered throughout both versions of RE4 are these blue medallions that you can shoot, and shooting them and completing all of them in an area usually unlocks like a reward or money for the player that they can collect from the merchant. Dino Crisis. So this is another Capcom series made by Shinji Mikami that share a lot of similarities with Resident Evil. Most notably the gameplay, which is pretty similar to the original trilogy, except instead of zombies you're fighting dinosaurs. And a costume resembling the protagonist Regina from the game was available for Jill in RE3. And you can also see posters of the game in certain walls in Resident Evil Survivor. Lisa Trevor. So Lisa Trevor was the daughter of Jessica and George Trevor, and a 14-year-old Lisa was kidnapped along with her mother when they arrived at the Spencer mansion, and they were subject to horrific experimentation of the progenitor virus by Spencer, which unfortunately resulted in her mother being deemed a failure and her mother was executed. However, Lisa gained superhuman strength, but her mind began to deteriorate, obviously. And over the next 28 years, she was experimented on and tortured heavily, and she was kept underneath the Spencer estate with almost nobody knowing that she was there. And William Birkin attempted to do some experiments on her, which restored part of her cognition. And eventually, she was deemed a failure as well, and was executed and dumped in the Arklay Mountains. But due to her regenerative abilities, she survived and wandered the mountains for several years. And during this time, she would sneak back into the mansion and steal things, and she lived in a cabin nearby. Until the Stars incident, where she encountered several of the members, and eventually she was pinned by a chandelier while fighting Albert Wesker, and presumably she died in the mansion explosion. Quick turn. So this mechanic was first introduced in RE3, and it allows the player to quickly turn the opposite way, to avoid danger. And this has become a staple of the series, with many other games in other franchises also co-opting this mechanic as well. The CG films. So 4 animated films and 1 TV show in the same style have all been released. So these are all canon and follow various characters on various adventures, namely Leon, since he's in almost all of them. The latest one, Death Island, is pretty notable. Since it is the first piece of media in the series to feature the entire main cast, Jill, Leon, Chris, Claire, and Rebecca, on a single adventure, and honestly, it's pretty good. The Outbreak series. So this is an underrated spin-off series of the franchise. Outbreak and Outbreak File 2 are co-op games set during the Raccoon City incident. So these mainly feature side characters, just trying to survive in the city and escape. The series was largely forgotten, only receiving a few Easter eggs in like RE7 and various games like that, until the announcement of Resident Evil 9 Requiem, where it was revealed that we'd be playing as the daughter of one of the main characters in Outbreak. Real Life Umbrella Corporation. So multiple companies in real life have taken the Umbrella name and also logo. Some of these include IT companies, a company selling gym supplements, and as well as an actual chemical research company. 7 minutes.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
So this is another iconic Wesker line from RE5, which has become kind of an internet meme since then. The infamous Waterhall. So this is a level from RE4 which has become infamous due to its hard difficulty. Mainly due to the fact that its wide open area provides little areas of protection, as well as the fact that enemies come from all direction, which forces you to balance ammo, enemy control, and protecting Ashley all at the same time. Welcome to Raccoon City. So like I mentioned before, this is the 2021 failed reboot of the series, which was critically panned for several reasons, mainly due to the fact that it butchers the iconic characters and they really don't resemble their in-game counterparts, as well as the messy attempt to meld the stories of Resident Evil 1 and 2 together. Robo Salazar. So in the original RE4, there's a goofy-looking statue of Salazar, one of the game's villains, that chases you. And in the Resident Evil 4 remake, it does appear in a certain section, but the sequence where it chases you was cut from the game. Usage of the word fuck. So starting with 5, the series had sparingly used the F-bomb only in certain scenes, but this changed starting with 7, which each game since has heavily used it. Bawkbasoup. So Bawkbasoup is a prominent Resident Evil YouTuber who mainly specializes in randomizers and speedruns. His videos have garnered thousands of views as he explores ways to change the game, such as making every enemy in the Resident Evil 2 remake Nemesis. Bingo line is an iconic line that Leon says at the beginning of RE4.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Which luckily made it into the RE4 remake, and notably Leon's voice actor Nick Apostolides reportedly fought heavily to keep it in the game. Monster Hunter crossovers. So in 2019, to celebrate the release of the R2 remake, Leon and Claire were added into the game, as well as some zombies and even Mr. X himself. RE6 logo draft. So this is kind of a shitpost where people remark that the RE6 logo looks like a man giving a giraffe head. Yeah, okay, moving on. The yellow paint and tape debate. So this is something that largely stems from the Resident Evil 4 remake, where breakable crates have yellow tape on them, and climbable ledges have yellow paint. Some gamers say that this ruins the game for them and makes it too easy, but this discourse is found all over gaming, and has passionate defenders on both sides, but in my opinion, it's kind of a pointless debate. I mean, does it really break the game for you? Las Plagas. So Las Plagas is a parasitic organism first introduced in Resident Evil 4. They have existed for centuries underneath the Salazar castle, and when attached to the host, it controls their body and gives them super strength and increased aggression. And when Osmond Sadler found them in 2000, his cult soon grew around them. And after the events of RE4, Wesker managed to obtain some Plaga from Krauser's body and gave it to Tricell to experiment on. And the Plagas was last seen in Resident Evil Vendetta, where the surviving Los Illuminados used the Plaga to create the A-virus, the Hive. So multiple locations in Resident Evil have shared this name. So for instance, in the RE4 remake, the Hive is a building in the castle which is infested by Novistadors. And in the Paul W.S. Anderson films, the Hive is the massive underground umbrella lab underneath Raccoon City. And in Outbreak, it is the third scenario in the game, which mainly takes place in the Raccoon General Hospital and the sewers underneath. Explicit content warnings. So these appear in every game at the beginning, which, like, yeah, it's a game about zombies, of course it's going to have content warnings. The Sphere Hunter. So Susie Hunter, or known as the Sphere Hunter on her YouTube channel, is a very popular Resident Evil YouTuber, as well as a voice actress. She is known for making very in-depth videos about various games, and she even appeared in Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty DLC. She's great, definitely check her out. I love Susie, she's awesome. Mr. X teleports off camera. So sometimes when entering scripted events in the R2 remake, Mr. X will teleport from one end of the RPD to the place where he needs to be. Mentioned earlier, the YouTuber Slippy Slides has a excellent video breaking this down on like exactly how this works. I'll link it down below for you guys to check out. Ashley's panties. So in a very cheeky Easter egg, if the player attempts to look up Ashley's skirt, she will react and call them a pervert. Chris's blood. So this is another goofy line from RE1 in which Barry remarks,
"What is this?"
What is it?
"Blood." "Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this. Hope this is not Chris's blood."
Fortnite characters. So Chris and Jill were added to the game in 2021, and Jill had her Stars and RE3 remake outfit, and Chris had his RE5 and Village outfit. Later in 2023, Leon and Claire were added, Leon with his RE4 outfit and Claire with her RE2 remake outfit. But since April 2023, none of the characters have been seen in the item shop, resulting in many fans wanting them to come back, myself included. But they probably will come back, as Epic has confirmed Resident Evil will return in March of 2026, with Grace Ashcroft from Requiem being added. Red Queen. So the Red Queen is a villain from the live-action games. She is a supercomputer AI who controlled Umbrella from the shadows. And a version of this does appear in the spin-off game Umbrella Chronicles. It's kind of similar to its live-action counterpart. Wesker downloads the Umbrella data onto a Red Queen disk, which is supposedly a supercomputer, so it might appear later in the franchise, we never know. So, Mouse Ashley. This is a Twitter meme born from the fact that some people claim that Ashley has large ears and apparently mouse-like features. So people began drawing her as a mouse, which is kind of cute. Raid mode. So Raid mode is a mode that appears in both of the Revelations games. And this game mode involves fighting multiple enemies throughout different stages from the game. You select a character from a roster and their equipment, and then you go and clear the stage. And while the first game only has characters from that game, Revelations 2 brought in characters from throughout the series, such as Leon, Hunk, Chris, Jill, and Wesker. And speaking of Hunk, or the Grim Reaper, is an Umbrella security service officer who is the sole survivor of Umbrella's attack against William Birkin. And he has become an icon of the franchise due to his badass look and cool demeanor. Hunk fought his way out of Raccoon City and into legendary status. He has appeared in multiple games since then, and in various game modes, such as like Mercenaries. Lewd mods. So Resident Evil fans are very horny. If you go to Nexus Mods and turn on the adult content mods and then go to any Resident Evil game, you will see basically every mod is an adult mod. Welcome to the family, son. So this is an iconic line from Jack Baker in the opening of RE7. This line exploded on the internet when RE7 released, and even I remember some of my friends who weren't even Resident Evil fans were talking about it. Resident Evil Resistance. So this is one of many failed attempts by Capcom to launch an online game. Resident Evil Resistance was packaged in with the RE3 remake. In the same vein of many like online horror games like Dead by Daylight, Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, those kind of games, it involves 4 survivors playing against one other player called the Mastermind. The players have to complete various puzzles as the Mastermind spawns, enemies, traps, and tries to kill them. While the game mode is fun, they only added a few updates, and it's still playable, but it can kind of be difficult as, there's very few players online now. And many fans, myself included, kind of hold a resentment towards the game, as we feel that Capcom diverted much needed resources from the RE3 remake into this game, which resulted in a, very lackluster remake of RE3. Skorts. This is a pretty dumb controversy from the RE3 remake. When players equipped the classic costume on Jill, instead of a skirt, they realized that she had shorts on, which looked like a skirt, which caused many fans to be outraged, because I guess they couldn't look up her skirt. And they think Capcom was censoring Jill, but dude, look at her already. Damn. Resident Evil 1.5. So late into RE2's development, the entire game was scrapped. The project was rebooted with about 60 to 80% completion. For years, rumors of a leaked build, were online and surfaced until a leaked build was finally released in 2013. Notable differences from RE2 include the fact that Claire is absent. Instead, you play as someone very similar named Elsa Walker. Leon was already a seasoned cop in the RPD and was partnered with Marvin. Ada's counterpart was called Linda, who was an Umbrella employee, and Umbrella was already going to be closed down. which caused the monsters to escape. Capcom finally acknowledged this prototype with the RE2 remake, where one of Claire's alternate outfits is the Elsa Walker skin. The RE2 remake burger. So in the intro to RE2 remake, the trucker is eating a heavily detailed burger, which many fans have either called disgusting or delicious. Separate ways. So this is a mode in both the original RE4 and the remake, which this retells the game's events from Ada's point of view. While the original is seen as kind of thrown together and lackluster, the remakes has received praise for providing more light to Ada and Luis's characters, as well as adding cut parts from the original game back in with very creative ways. Action Replay and GameShark. So these were cheating devices in the early 2000s that you could plug into your console, which gave you access to different kinds of cheat codes for various games. These devices were very popular to use with RE4, which provided new ways to, break and play the game. Ashley and Salazar are the same age. So this is a fact that may fly over some people's heads, mainly due to Salazar's rugged appearance. But him and Ashley were both born in 1984, which makes both of them 20 by the events of RE4. Resident Evil 3.5. So multiple scrapped versions of RE4 have surfaced in the years since the release, and these have become infamous due to their planned departures from the series norms. Some of the versions had ghost-like hallucinations. One of them had a Hookman type of stalker enemy, kind of like Nemesis and Mr. X, and a version was also more psychological based and took place in a castle. The G-Virus. So the G-Virus is William Birkin's life's work. It was created following the discovery of a parasite in Lisa Trevor during his experimentations on her. William Birkin and his wife Annette worked on the virus until 1998, which his relationship with Umbrella soured, and him and Annette planned to defect to the US military's bioweapon project. After Umbrella raided the lab to seize the G-Virus, Birkin infected himself and went on to become G. And during the outbreak, he infected multiple people with the G-Virus, which caused various creations. Go Tell Aunt Rhody. So this is the song that plays at the beginning of RE7, which has become synonymous with the game's, themes and overall vibe and atmosphere. Ballistics. So this is a meme born from the original RE4 in a scene where Luis comments on Ashley's chest size. Chris punching boulders. So this might be Resident Evil's most iconic meme, which stems from a scene near the end of RE5 where Chris quite literally punches a boulder. This scene has been referenced in Village as well as a lot of pop culture. Bitch in the red dress. So this is just the name that Krauser calls Ada in the original RE4. Itchy Tasty. So this is a reference to the most eloquent zombie in the Resident Evil universe. During RE1, you can find the final memoir in Umbrella Animal Keeper. This line has become iconic in the fandom, even appearing in the 2021 film Welcome to Raccoon City. And it is also the title of the unofficial history book of Resident Evil. Laser Room. So this iconic room made its appearance in the first Resident Evil live-action film in 2002. This scene kind of blew up and has been referenced in not only the film series, but it also jumped into the main series with RE4. And since then, a few games have had references to it. Ink Ribbon. So this is another prolific Resident Evil YouTuber who mainly makes videos breaking down fun facts about different characters and events in the series. I definitely recommend him, as he's a very fun YouTuber to watch, and he always provides interesting facts about the series. Mansion Basement Theme. So as mentioned earlier, the director's cut of RE1 added several new tracks to the game, and the Mansion Basement Theme has become infamous as it's just kind of a cacophony of random trumpets playing, and it's not very good, and it replaced a very atmospheric track. So many fans shun this and make fun of it. Mommy Dimitrescu memes. So, as mentioned earlier, the internet is full of people who want, tall goth women to step on them. So, of course, various memes have been made about wanting Lady D to step on them. Resident Evil 5 racism controversy. So, this is just kind of the internet being the internet. When RE5 was released, some people were outraged that the infected in that game are black, but you're in Africa, so of course they're gonna be black. It's gonna be interesting to see how the RE5 remake is gonna go over. Ashley cheering for Leon. So this is a very cute detail in the RE4 remake, but when you're in the shooting range with Ashley, she will cheer for you, and it's just, it's just cute. AlphaOmegaSin. So this is a Resident Evil YouTuber who has been making videos about Resi since 2010. No panties, no buy. So this is another example of fans just being unhinged and dumb. A small minority of fans accused Capcom of censoring Ashley's panties in the RE4 remake. Why? RE staples. So several items and events in the series have become iconic and staples referenced in basically almost every game. So these include the Magnum, lighters, rocket launchers, and as well as a self-destructing lab at the end of almost every game. Julia Voth. So starting in 2002, Julia Voth served as the face model for Jill up until Resident Evil 5, and she has become an icon in the fan base. She's even cosplayed Jill multiple times and even made a video of her and Jill cosplay eating a Jill sandwich. RE4 VR personal space. So in the VR port of RE4, Ashley will get very close to the player, causing a lot of people to get jump scared by her. And a lot of fans who play remark that she is the most scary part of the game. Oh my god. So you see that. In the god-awful Netflix adaptation, whose only saving grace is Lance Reddick, a character remarks,
I mostly just read Zootopia porn.
That's some Shakespearean writing right there. Ethan must die. So this is a mini-game for Resident Evil 7 that was included in the Banned Footage Volume 1 DLC. This game mode is known for being very unforgiving in its difficulty, as most enemies can hit you in one shot, and if you're not careful, you can run out of resources very quickly. I've never beaten it. It's too hard for me. Sitting on the throne in RE4. So in both versions of Resident Evil 4, you can sit on Salazar's throne, which results in a very cool frame. Chris steroids me. So after seeing Chris's massive bulk up in 5, a lot of fans remarked and joked that he took steroids. Neo Umbrella. So Neo Umbrella is a bioterrorist organization formed by Carla Radames. They are largely to blame for the events in Resident Evil 6. And they captured Jake and Sherry and experimented on them to create the enhanced C virus. So they were responsible for the attack in Lanxiang at the end of RE6. And after RE6, they largely fell apart and haven't been seen since. Hunter POV cutscenes. So in Resident Evil 1, at a certain point, you will trigger a cutscene, which is from the point of view of a hunter as it dashes through the courtyard and up into the mansion. Leon's unlockable RE2 outfits are inspired by pop culture. So this has never been really confirmed, but specifically Leon's sheriff outfit in the RE2 remake kind of looks like Rick Grimes' outfit from The Walking Dead. And some fans also speculate that his noir outfit resembles Sebastian from The Evil Within, another iconic series. Dimitrescu pronunciation. So some fans struggle with pronouncing Lady D's name, so they just refer to her as Lady D. Capcom hiding Ethan's face. So this is a very odd dedication from Capcom to continually hide Ethan's face, even during a very emotional moment in the Shadows of Rose DLC, where I think it would have been perfect to reveal his face, as he says goodbye to his daughter one last time. I just think it ruined the moment for him. I'm still kind of salty about that. Mega 64 merchant video. So this is a beautiful video from 2006, where a guy goes around in public dressed as the merchant, just asking people, what are you buying? What are you selling? I miss when we did fun stuff like this. Unfortunately, the police are called on him at the end of the video, but it's pretty fun. Sengoku Biohazard or Onimusha. So there was an idea at Capcom to have a Resi game set in the Sengoku period of Japan. The game would feature what they refer to as a ninja house, filled with traps, kind of like the Spencer Mansion. The player would fight with swords and shuriken, and this idea eventually became Onimusha Warlords, which spawned a franchise of its own, one of many Resident Evil spin-offs to do that. The C virus. So the C virus was created by the Family Organization, and it was made by combining the T Veronica and G viruses, or the Golgotha virus. The capture of Sherry and Jake was the final step in creating this virus. Ditman glitch. So this was first discovered by user Ditman333 on GameFAQs.com. This RE4 glitch allows you to move and complete actions at a faster pace. So it can be achieved by aiming the striker shotgun, entering the inventory before the laser sight appears, equipping any other item, then exiting the inventory. And after this, Leon will move 1.5 times faster, which also includes reloading and knifing. You can also escape the map using this glitch, which allows you to explore, areas previously unavailable to you. Valdolobos. So this is the region of Spain where RE4 takes place. In ancient times, an unknown society who was technologically advanced built a large city in the catacombs. Nobody knows what happened to them after this, but in medieval times, the Los Illuminados emerged and worshipped the underground plagas. In the late 15th century, the Salazars claimed the region and executed most of the cultists, driving them underground. Eventually, Sadler re-emerged as the leader of the Los Illuminados and manipulated Ramon Salazar into taking over the region. Single player Nacho. So this is a YouTuber who covers mysteries in the Resident Evil universe and various tidbits of lore. The Resident Evil 4 HD project. So this is a massive project undertaken by modders Albert Marin and Chris Morales. Ha! Albert and Chris. Get it? Funny. But this first began in 2014 when the game was finally released on PC. It was fully released on February 2nd, 2022. It took approximately 13,000 hours. Donations provided $15,000 to cover the expenses. The mod remastered the entire game and received unanimous praise upon its release. And it actually resulted in Albert Marin being hired by Night Dive Studios, which is a prolific remaster studio. The banned footage volumes. So these are pieces of DLC for Resident Evil 7, and Volume 1 includes a few little mini-games. The first one is Nightmare. So the first one is Nightmare, which is a wave-based minigame where Clancy from the demo and also a few like flashbacks in 7 is forced to fight waves of enemies in the basement of the Baker house, while also upgrading like his equipment and his defenses. And the next piece is Bedroom, which is set after Nightmare, where Clancy is tied to a bed by Marguerite and he has to escape. And the game mode ends with her stabbing him. And the final piece of Volume 1 is the Ethan Must Die minigame that I mentioned before. And Volume 2 starts off with 21, which is a card-based minigame where Clancy has to basically compete in like a Saw-esque minigame, playing against another captive of the Bakers. The next mode is Daughters, which is a mode that you play from Zoe's perspective about the night that Evelyn came and infested the Baker house. And the last minigame is a bonus minigame called Jack's 55th Birthday, where you play as Mia, where she runs around the house trying to feed Jack to satiate his hunger level. This is kind of a joke minigame. It's not canon. At least I'm pretty sure it's not canon. Rockford Island. So Rockford Island is the area at the beginning of Code Veronica where Claire is taken to. It was owned by the Ashfords, and it was a training place for Umbrella's paramilitary unit. And BOWs were also produced there for training and research, as well as a concentration camp that was built for Umbrella's enemies. The island was destroyed after the outbreak during Code Veronica, and it left only ruins and the BOWs roaming the island. Ark Thompson. So Ark Thompson is the main character of Resident Evil Survivor, and he's also the good friend of
Leon S. Kennedy.
During his infiltration of the island, an outbreak occurred, which resulted in Ark getting amnesia. Initially thinking he was the ruthless commander of the island, Vincent eventually regained his memories and escaped the island with the 2 children that he rescued. He hasn't been seen or heard of since Survivor, and we're not sure, where he is or what he's doing. Opening the front door of the mansion cutscene. So in Resident Evil 1, if you interact with the door, if you interact with the front door of the mansion several times, cutscene will play. And a Cerberus will hop in through the door, which results in you having to deal with that now. Nemesis hard mode drops. So in the original version of RE3, Nemesis will drop different items if you're playing on hard mode, and these items are very valuable and like high value for the player. Some of these include, parts to make a powerful handgun, a shotgun, first aid sprays, and infinite ammo for one weapon. The Lily Gao controversy. So for the Resident Evil 4 remake, Capcom didn't go with the RE2 remake voice actress. They instead hired Lily Gao, who played Ada in the post-credit scene of Welcome to Raccoon City. And this has caused some controversy, as a lot of fans feel like she is very monotone in her performance, which that's the the voice director's part. That's not really her fault. And many fans proceeded to harass her online, which come on guys, don't do that. And during the Separate Ways DLC, I feel like she was a little bit better. And I hope she gets another go at the character, because I feel like she could grow a lot more into that role. Using flash grenades on sensitive enemies to get an insta-kill. So in both versions of RE4, if the Plagas is coming out of the Ganado, you can use a flash grenade to do an instant kill on it.
Here you go.
Village of Shadows. So this can have 2 meanings. The highest difficulty in RE Village is also this name, but it's also the title of the story that Mia reads to Rose at the beginning of the game, which I will play now.
Long ago, a young girl went with her mother to pick berries for her father, who was hard at work. But the forest greeted them with a dark, cold silence, the bushes empty. Yet determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free from Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees. Mother's worried cries faded fast as the girl ran on, over vine and under branch, and into the forest deep. Feeling strange eyes upon her, the girl recalled Mother's scary bedtime tales, and her throat became bone dry. Then the Bat Lord appeared. He greeted her warmly and bit his own wing. "Come, child, quench your thirst," he said. So she drank the thick, dark blood and smiled with joy. Passing through the graveyard, menacing storm clouds loomed, and the air turned bitingly cold. The girl was shivering in her thin clothes. Then a dark weaver appeared, and with a click of his fingers crafted mist into a beautiful dress. "Come, child, warm yourself," he coaxed. So she clothed herself and smiled with joy. Across waters deep and ominous she went, hoping a boat she found would carry her home. But hunger's grip tightened and her heart grew heavy. Then the Fish King appeared and offered one of his many fins. "Come, child, eat your fill." So the girl ate and smiled with joy once more. Continuing on, she soon entered the forest's dark heart. Then an iron steed appeared, bearing a beautiful golden gear. The creature said nothing as the girl approached and snatched what she thought was another gift. The horse grew angry and summoned the other monsters. Terror filled the girl's heart as a wild wind rose around the beast. Suddenly, a witch appeared, dark, yet regal.
So this tale directly spoils the entire story of Village, and each character is represented in the tale. More obviously, Ethan is the father and Mia is the mother. Rose is the daughter and Miranda is the witch. The Batlord is Lady D, a vampire. The Dark Weaver is Donna Beneviento, who weaves illusions using her hallucinogens. The Fish King is obviously Monroe, and the Iron Steed is Heisenberg. And the girl being trapped in a mirror is a reference to Rose, being separated into 4 parts. Food parodies. So these might mean a few different things, such as restaurants, like naming a sandwich the Jill sandwich. There's also an internet parody series where Wesker and the other cast members order from Chipotle. And lastly, in both versions of Resident Evil 2, you can play as a block of tofu in an extra mode. Dust Golem. So Dust Golem is a prominent Resident Evil leaker who has been leaking, details about future games for years at this point. Their authenticity is kind of debated as they've gotten things right a lot, but they've also gotten a ton of things wrong at the same time, so it's kind of shaky. Your right hand comes off. So this is another meme from Resident Evil 4 where Leon quips to Salazar that his right hand comes off. Sawdad, I think that's how it's pronounced. This is the song composed by Cody Matthew Johnson and Shim for the RE2 remake. It plays at the beginning during Leon's scenario over his car radio, and as well as the credits for the second run scenarios. And with that, we have finished the first 2 tiers of the Resident Evil Iceberg. This has been pretty fun so far, and I'm looking forward to doing more research about the other tiers. Each tier is probably going to be its own video from this point, as they are pretty big, and it's going to take a while to research each one. But with that, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.